Maguire and De Gea. I wouldn't even let them on the bus after the match. I get a taxi back to Manchester.
This fella Ronaldo is a cod.
Oh, yes! Hello, Ted,
I'm 2 minutes in the ground, you asked me to step back in.
Yeah.
Don't annoy me. Tell your mother on you.
Hello and welcome to the Following the Floodlights podcast. I'm Conor Hosford.
And I'm Daniel Pitcher.
On this week's show, Daniel Lambert, Bohemians Chief Operating Officer, talks to us about his new role at the club, football in the community and politics and its place in the game.
We have reaction as well from a dramatic night at Dalymount Park between Bohs and Derry, as well as looking ahead to this week's action. Stephen Kenny, the Ireland manager, speaks as he names his squad for crucial internationals. That and more on this week's show. You can get in contact with us by tweeting at FTFPodIRE or emailing ftfpod@gmail.com.
First up this week, we took a trip to Dalymount Park where Bohemians were set to meet Derry City in the SSG Electricity League. It was a big one for Bohs, who were not only trying to cement at least a second place finish, but keep up the pressure on Shamrock Rovers to the top. Dan, from the outset of this game, it looked like it was going to be a long night.
It did indeed. It didn't help them that they fell behind inside the second minute. Almost like a freak goal. It caught everybody on the hop. And from there, Derry ploughed on. They might have been unlucky to have maybe another goal. An opportunity cleared off the line, I remember, by Dawson Devoy, who seems to have had a terrific impact since arriving at the club. But it was all Derry, and it really did look like that they were going to take all 3 points in the night. Bohs did come out in the second half with a little bit more energy with them, but still at the same time they weren't creating very many chances. It wasn't until the likes of Dinny Corcoran and Keith Ward came on that there was a little bit more life inflicted into the game, and that was sort of late on in the game, and you were kind of thinking, was that too late for Keith Long to make any sort of changes that were going to have an impact? But indeed they did. They got their penalty in the 92nd minute, and then less than a minute later, I'd say probably just over a minute later, I think it was something like 90 seconds in between the two goals, they got their winner, which came from a free kick, and Andre Wright, just amongst a very crowded penalty box, just managed to find the ball and toe poke it in the back of the net. An awful lot of people saying daylight robbery, but you know what, you need luck in sport sometimes to get these results, and luck was on Bohemian side on the night. So they took the 3 points, and as you said, it was a crucial one for them in terms of the overall complexion of their season, and hoping that they just keep distance from Dundalk in third place in the table, and I suppose cement the fact that they're going to be in Europe next season.
So after the game, Dan caught up with Dinny Corcoran.
Dinny, I suppose, is that more a feeling of relief than adulation of 3 points in the dressing room
Definitely,
tonight?
yeah, definitely. I think it wasn't one of our prettiest performances. I think the whole game in general was kind of scrappy, and to go behind in the second minute is always going to be tough. And Derry done well; they defended well, to be fair, the whole game. And yeah, it was absolute smash and grab, but great 3 points to get, yeah.
And I know you watched on for a lot of that from the bench, but what sort of said at half time to try and get that mentality back to just keep going and keep trying to ride your luck a little bit?
Yeah, he just said that I think Derry kind of looked the hungrier team in the first half. They were getting on the second balls more, they wanted it a bit more, and Keith and Trev just had a bit of a go at us and told us that we need to improve if we want to get out of the game. And the second half was better. I think we showed a bit more about us, and luckily got the results, yeah. I
mean, 2 absolute minutes of madness there at the end, first of all with the penalty, and once that was scored, I mean, obviously the belief was there that you could go and get, I mean, I know you got the free kick on the sideline here, but the belief obviously there that you could go and grab the win.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when the penalty went in, we would have took the 1-1 draw, in the circumstances, but yeah, we never gave up. There was still 2 minutes to play, and like you said, we got a free kick, got it in there, and it was a bit of a scramble, but landed at Dre's feet and he's finished it, so yeah, absolutely delighted.
Overall, in terms of the complexion of the season, then how vital is this result, given that Shamrock Rovers coming into the game top of the table by 8 points, you've managed now to draw that back down to 5, and now they've got to go to Dundalk, who are riding the crest of a wave at the minute.
Yeah, there's still a lot to play for. I think there's 5 games left. We've 4 now with a lot of teams at 5. Yeah, we're not worried about Rovers. We're just going to concentrate on our own game, pick up as many points as we can. Who knows what will happen in the run-in? Maybe Rovers will drop a few points, but that's not up to us. We just have to look after ourselves. And yeah, in terms of tonight, it was a massive win to kind of get away from the chasing pack a bit. Kind of Dundalk and Sligo and the like. So yeah, it was a massive win, and we're just going to keep going, take it game by game, and see where we end up.
And after Europe, I suppose the disappointment of missing out solely on penalties and trying to get yourself back into it. I know it was followed by 2 defeats to Rovers and to Waterford, but that win in Sligo last time out, how much of a pick-up really was that, given that it was just 3 weeks of disappointment?
Yeah, it was massive. Like you said, I think we'd won our 5 on the trot up before the European game, so we were full of confidence. We were doing really well, and then went through a bit of a slump. We lost in Europe on penalties, obviously, and the following 2 league games, which hit us a bit and knocked us back a bit, you know. But yeah, last week in Sligo, very tough place to go, and I think we played very well there. We deserved the win, and gave us a lot of confidence going in today. And then, like I said, tonight wasn't pretty, it was scrappy, but we've got the 3 points, and we're delighted.
A Northside derby coming up next for you guys, and I suppose in the preparations then to go off and face Dundalk then in the next round of the Cup. It's going to be a huge game in terms of obviously beating your rivals obviously in the league, and as you mentioned, picking up all of those points, but then getting that the right level of form going into a really important cup game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we know next week against Shells it's going to be tough. Like you said, Dublin derby, they're always tough, tense games, you know. And Shells are a good side. They're capable of beating the bigger teams on their day, you know. So we're going to have to prepare like we prepare for every match. And like you said, with the big cup game coming up, we've been unlucky in the cup the last few years. We've knocked on the door. I think it's 2 semi-finals. So we'd love to go a step further and even win it. But yeah, we're just looking at Shells now. We're not thinking about the Dundalk game. We've got Shells next week, and hopefully we pick up another 3 points, and then we'll be confident going into the game. Yeah.
And I suppose then finally, from a personal perspective, I know for last season and I suppose the opening of this season, you know, you had spent a lot of time out injured. You've been obviously getting yourself back into it, the swing of things now. How are you feeling overall?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling, like you said, I had a long layoff there. I broke my leg and I was out for the guts of a year. I think I hadn't played since May last year. So yeah, it was tough, but I've trained hard over the lockdown. We all trained hard, and I'm feeling fit now. I mean, I know game time is limited because we're doing well. I can't really complain too much, you know. But I'm feeling good, and I'm 31 now, but I still feel like I have a few years left of me. I still feel good, and I'm just gonna hopefully play as much as I can for the rest of the season and see what happens.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you very much indeed.
No problem.
So that was Dinny Corcoran speaking to me just after full time at that match at Dalymount Park, and I suppose it did, for the time being, reduce Shamrock Rovers' lead at the top of the table to 5 points. But then on Sunday, Rovers went to Oriel Park to face a Dundalk side, and an awful lot of sort of needless controversy really in the run up to the game. I know obviously Dundalk had won their European match and are getting set for this Thursday's game at the Aviva, but you know, you'd be lost at looking for another example anywhere else in world football that league games are called off due to somebody having a league game the next week. It happens in England all the time, where, you know, Manchester United might have a game on a Thursday night in the Europa League and then have to go and play on a Saturday or a Sunday. So you know, an awful lot of needless controversy, people saying that the game should have been called off, Bows and Derry or Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers, but obviously the game did go ahead. Dundalk made 10 changes to that team, and Conor, as you saw yourself, Rovers just went out and did a demolition job on them.
Yeah, first of all, like we were saying with the Dundalk looking for the game to be called off, like, okay, I'm going to use a recent example here now. With Rovers played against AC Milan on a Thursday night, and they played Waterford again on a Monday night. Okay, there's one example. Yeah, the 24 hours in the difference, but it's not that. 24 hours isn't that much, you know what I mean? Like, okay, albeit they didn't have a game the following week, but still, like, you're full-time professional footballers. You're like, you have to play. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, sure, wasn't at the start. It was Vinnie Perth at the start of the season says, like, well, not at the start of the season, but the restart. Like, do you know what I mean? They're able for a full 36 fixtures. Like, do you know what I mean? They have that strength in depth in the squad. Like, do you know what I mean? But like, clearly Filippo thinks otherwise.
Well, it obviously finished 4-0 to Shamrock Rovers in Oriel Park in a game which saw the return of fans to Oriel Park for the first time in a long time, and they turned up to see an absolute demolition. But anyway, yeah. But Dundalk, they are in the Europa League playoff this week. A hugely important game for them, and I suppose in the overall complexion, a really important game for Irish football. They've got a chance to qualify for the Europa League. 90 minutes stands in the way of that, and another appearance, the second appearance in 4 years.
Yeah, obviously I'm going to put my League of Ireland hat on here and just say it's absolutely fantastic for the league. Like, I think that's kind of like for Irish football. If we got another Irish club into the knockout stages now, like it'll be it's just help the coefficient. Like, we're climbing up that coefficient table. Like, I mean, like, it's just.
And I think that's really what the owners, the owners that we've heard so much about over the last while, in terms of that they wanted Dundalk to play their home matches at the Aviva Stadium and all the original plans that they had when they took over. But when they took over, it was at a time when it was the last time when Dundalk were in the Europa League, and they thought, oh, here's an opportunity, and they must have thought at the time that this happens in Irish football regularly, that you have Irish teams qualifying for either a Champions League or a Europa League. Obviously not the case, unfortunately, so that's clearly the reason why they made so many changes for that Shamrock Rovers game. It actually, in a respect, it really disrespected the league. It showed that that's okay, fine. There's a huge windfall to be made out of qualifying for the Europa League. That's fully accepted. Irish teams don't make that much money in the overall scheme, in the grand scheme of things. But your SSE Electricity League is your bread and butter, and I do think that it showed an awful lot of disrespect to the league by fielding 10 changes to face Shamrock Rovers.
This is the current champions we're talking about here. Like, the only way they could have got to the position they are in now is by climbing up the league table. So, in my opinion, now this is strongly my opinion, the league suits them when they wanted to. Like, that's extremely disappointing. Yeah,
and knowing my luck now, they'll go out in the FAI Cup against Bohemians at Dalymount Park, put a fully strength squad out to play Bows. That'll be the end of our cup push this season.
Like, overall, you want teams playing their strongest side day in, day out. Like, I know in the Premier League you have your Carabao Cup or whatever it's called now, the League Cup, and the Premier League teams look for it to be like, okay, we'll put out the academy side. In Ireland, you want to put your, whether it's the EA Sports Cup, whether it's the FAI Cup, whether it's Europe, whether it's the league, you want to put your strongest side out. Like, you want to showcase the league now, especially now when we have the platform with Watch League of Ireland, right? Watch LOI. RT said at the start, this is going to be.
Oh, this is where
they're going to see now whether we show more games or whether it's know what. No. When you put out a strong team, when you put out and play good quality football, no matter who you're playing against, whether it be Finn Harps and Cork at the bottom of the table, or whether it be Dundalk and Bows, Dundalk and Rovers, Bows, Rovers at the top of the table, like, you want to showcase the quality they have in the league at all stages. Because you've seen the reach; it's going as far as Australia, New Zealand, the Americas. Like, it's
and that just does it no favours.
I mean, look, that reach, like,
on the flip side of things, people did get to see Jack Byrne scoring twice, who ended up in an Ireland squad.
That last goal that he scored.
At the same time, it is poor form. To go over some of the other results from the week, a really, really good result for Finn Harps. We don't say that very often in terms of a 1-1 draw at home against Cork City, and a cracking goal from the League of Ireland veteran Raf Kutaro. If you haven't seen it, get on. If you haven't seen it, get on and watch it. You'll see it all over the internet. It was a class goal from Finn Harps and from Raf Kataro, and a really important point they took away from their game against Cork City. The other results, St. Pat's and Shelburne, and as I talk about cracking goals, Chris Forrester, oh my God, what a rocket he scored for St. Pat's on the night, and if you haven't seen that one as well, get yourself onto the internet and see it, and as well the hilarious scenes afterwards when the camera panned up to the apartments behind the goal, and there were a load of fans out on a balcony with flares. It symbolised really everything that's, you know, in like the fans, they can't get in and see it. We're in all of these restrictions. The fans are desperate to get back in and see it. You saw it out at Tallaght Stadium when the Rovers fans got up on the gate or on the wall. You see they're getting up on balconies in apartment flats. They really do want to get and see their football again, and well done, Chris Forrester. It was an amazing goal.
It's not called the greatest league in the world for no reason, you know, so
Waterford beating Sligo Rovers a 1-0 as well, and then obviously then that result that we did our feature on this week, which was Bohemians 2, Derry City 1. In terms of the fixtures this week, Connor?
Yeah, fixtures on Tuesday the 29th of September, you're going to get Sligo Rovers against Derry City. Sligo the home team, that's kicking off at 7:45. On Friday, you're going to have Derry and Waterford.
That's tonight.
Oops.
So just maybe go from Friday.
Is that tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So you start again there.
So in terms of fixtures for this week, Connor?
Yeah, you've got a full card of fixtures coming up this starting Friday into Saturday, and even going across into Sunday as well. Speaking of Friday, you've got Derry and Waterford kicking off at 5:45. After that game, you've got Shamrock Rovers and Sligo kicking off at 7:45. Also kicking off at 7:45, you've got UCD and Bray, Drogheda and Athlone, and Wexford and Shamrock Rovers 2 in the First Division. On Saturday, you've got 5 o'clock, you've got Cork at home to St. Pat's. At 7 o'clock in the First Division, you've got Cove against Cabinteely. And back going into the Premier Division, you've got 7:30, you've got Shells and Bows and Northside Derby there. Massive, really big game there for both sides.
Because Shelburne obviously trying to avoid the drop. Bohemians want to continue that push to get as many points now on the table as possible. They'll obviously be hoping for a bit of a favour from Sligo.
Yeah, massive. They're looking for a massive favour, you know. But like it's going to be good viewing anyway on Saturday night if you tune in to watch League of Ireland, or I think that's on. Is that on RTE? I think that might be on RTE.
Yeah, I think it's on RTE. Yeah.
So like it's crunch tie there, really, you know. And
Absolutely.
then to finish off the night, also kicking off at 7:30 in the First Division, you've got Longford against Galway. Now, one fixture only on the Sunday. It's, I wouldn't say top, but it's top end v bottom end. You've got Dundalk against Finn Harps at 5 o'clock in Oriel Park.
So Conor, it wasn't only Dalymount Park we took a stroll out to this week. You headed out to Tallaght Stadium for more First Division action. Yeah,
I went out to see Rovers 2 play UCD. Now UCD is like they're
pushing.
They're pushing for playoff places, like, you know what I mean. So it's it was a good result on UCD's behalf. Like they beat Rovers 5-2 on the day. So like Rovers did try to crawl back with two free kicks from Brandon Kavanagh. To be fair, they were cracking free kicks. Like, you'd go anywhere in the world to see free kicks like that. But but UCD really trying to like put a statement on their performance there. Now the only thing with UCD is they had like what they felt they had, like they took the lead early on from Yo-Yo Maddy, but literally 30 seconds later Yo-Yo Maddy had gone down with a calf strain and he had to be taken off. So like they had a big blow there, but look, that didn't stop them. They drove on. They were 4-0 up at half time, and they only scored 1 in the second half. But look, they still won the game overall.
Absolutely, and they're as we mentioned, they're pushing for promotion, having dropped to the First Division last season. It will take some stopping of Bray Wanderers at the minute, but look, there is still time to claw things back, and at the very least get themselves into a playoff place at the very least. But you caught up afterwards with the UCD manager.
Yeah, I caught up with Andy Myler, and as you say, there is like Bray are kind of steaming forward now with Drogheda close behind, but like
there's very little
in it. Like Andy outlined that as well. Look, he says, look, the automatic promotion spots is not impossible, but Bray and Drogheda would have to drop an awful lot of points. but like you'll hear it in the next clip that he's very optimistic they can still get that playoff place.
Yeah, and here is Connor chatting to Andy Myler and Aidan Price.
Aidan, tough result to take today.
Yeah, it's a strange day. A lot of kind of unforced errors that led directly to goals cost us today. Yeah, it's a tough day in reflection. Albeit there's good parts in the game where we play quite well and we create some good opportunities with chances to score, or they have last ditch tackles to block shots and stuff like that. So yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to take results wise. Conceding the goals and coming in at half time 4-0 down. But I thought the lads second half they responded like we asked them. It's just unfortunate that we get the goal back. It would be a great free kick by Brandon, and then we give away a poor goal straight away afterwards, and then it takes us probably another 10 or 15 minutes to get going again and to have another little crack at them. But yeah, it's a tough day all round. Just one that we have to learn from and give them the tools to kind of use it in a positive manner and learn from those mistakes.
Yeah, and you say 4-0 down at half time, but the ability to come back out in the second half and power through, we'd say 2 free kicks from Brandon was the difference in the second half. Yeah,
I look, I don't doubt that character. Like it was you're nearly looking at it at half time saying, right, let's see how we respond to this. And I think they responded in a positive manner. It was just important that we just didn't go out and start trying to do what we wanted ourselves as individuals and trying to force stuff where we knew we'd probably get opportunities, but it was just cutting out the errors. Well, as I said, when you get the free kick, Brandon's his first free kick, you'd like to stay in the game a little bit longer and hopefully get. But if you got the second one at 4-2, you just don't know. But that goal kind of in the second half for them kind of come in there of ourselves for a period.
And then the second disappointment after the previous result against Drogheda, just nicked it at the death. There's plenty of positives to take from that game as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just have to reiterate that, but we need to make that their focus, along with at the same time working towards the things that we need to improve on for themselves individually, and to help themselves get better, and hopefully. These couple of games, albeit they're at a tough period in the season for them, results wise, they're still showing character and they're still showing resilience that hopefully if they learn from their mistakes, it'll stand to them a long time in their footballing career.
In terms of the squad, there was 2 absentees. I presume Leon Pauls didn't play today because he's travelling with the squad tomorrow.
Yeah.
But Kevin Zeffy wasn't in the squad either, is there?
Yeah, no, he's fine. He trained last night. He was fine. It's just we with an awful lot of games this weekend. It's just where someone's still so young. We played a good few games this week as well, so you just have to be conscious of not just putting them into too many games too often.
Aside from those 2 absentees, is there any injuries or concerns within camp going into the run-in?
No. Bodies wise, we're okay. A few little knocks, a few bruised egos, but outside of that. We seem to be okay. We just have to pick ourselves up again on Monday and go again. And with youth, you get exuberance and you get a kind of a no fear kind of mentality with them, that they're just prepared to go again on Monday. So we just have to make sure that we learn from a difficult period and look to show those improvements on the pitch.
Perfect. Thanks, Aidan.
Thanks very much.
Andy, massive result today.
Yeah, big result for us today. Needed to get back to winning ways after the last couple of games for us. We've been a bit up and down, so the result was more important. Didn't think we played particularly well, to be honest, and we went in a 4-0. Sometimes football teaches you don't know much about football. How we were 4-0 up at half time of the game, I'm not really sure, so we'll just take the win out of it today and we'll move on now for the next 4 games.
And Rovers they tried to pull back there early in the second half with 2 huge free kicks from Brandon Kavanagh. How did you feel when you seen them 2 go in?
The free kicks were absolutely exceptional. As I said, you go anywhere in the world to see free kicks like that. Fantastic technique. Nothing our goalkeeper could do about it for either goal. So I think the little bit of luck we had was after the first one we scored straight away to put us 5-1 up. So that was good from our point of view, but the free kicks absolutely exceptional.
And you were dealt a blow early on in the game when Yo-Yo Maddie, after scoring a goal, he came off injured.
Yeah, that's a blow. We'll have a look at his calf, so Yo-Yo is an important player for us, so we'll hope he's alright for next week. But Daniel, in fairness, came on for Yo-Yo, scored 2 goals, so we have options there as well, so it's that's a positive for us today as well, that Daniel gets minutes and he scores, Collie scores as well, so we hope that we can build on that now momentum for the next couple of games.
And how do you feel now after this result? How do you feel that places you now going into the run-in, continuing looking for playoff places, or even pushing on for an automatic promotion?
Yeah, listen, the automatic is probably difficult at this point. There's only 12 points left to play for, 7 points off it, so Drogheda would probably have to have a big slip up, and Bray for that instance, but we play Bray next week, and we'll just try and finish up as high up the table as we can. Like I say, we won't stop trying. If we can't get first, we'll try and get second. If we can't get second, we'll try and get third. So that's the way we'll approach it now. We've got 12 points left to play for, against some really good teams that will give us really hard matches, so we just need to prepare properly and get right for those games.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Andy.
So as we were mentioning, in terms of the Shamrock Rovers result up in Dundalk, Jack Byrne has managed to get himself a place in the Ireland squad again for the upcoming internationals. A huge, obviously, Euro playoff against Slovakia, then we're at home against Wales, and we finish off the window against Finland. So 3 pretty important games now. Stephen Kenny did name his squad up at the National Sports Campus in Abbottstown, up at the FAI HQ, and we asked him first and foremost about Jack Byrne getting back into the Ireland squad.
Jack Byrne back in an Ireland squad again. I suppose you were at Oriel Park there the other night to see the Rovers game against Dundalk. Obviously he played a blinder on the night, but overall, sort of what have you seen from him since the last squad announcement, when people probably thought he should have been in then?
Yeah, I think I've been consistent in my selection. I think I think we've increased the squad from 23 to 25. We've 3 games this time. I think Jack has played quite well. Did well against AC Milan in the Europa League game. It must be said. Thought he did a good game against AC Milan, and obviously followed that up with 2 goals the weekend. So he's in the squad on merit. And he deserves to be in the squad. And him being
I suppose a home player here, and you're obviously based here as well. Has there been communication between the two of you since the last window, or?
Not really. I think I'm in contact with. I spoke to his manager. I spoke to Jack after the last squad, and certainly squad announcement. But I've been able to attend some of the games, and it's good to see.
Overall, since the last window, then, in terms of the general squad, how happy are you? Obviously, we were all waiting for the season to start and for players to get fitter and get into some sort of rhythm. So overall, since the season in England has started, how happy are you with how some of the players have played?
I'm much happier now. I think because in the last window, for example, Shane Duffy had only actually played 1 league game for Brighton in 9 months. We went from January to September and only played 1 game against Liverpool, one full 90 minutes. So you had a lot of players that hadn't played much football at all, and now you have a number of players, the majority of the players, that are playing every week and playing a lot of games. Some of them aren't playing every week; they're playing more often, and so they're going into this window in the back of 5 or 6 games, 5 or 6 90 minutes. Which is not everyone, but some of the players, and I think that's a much better situation. That's certainly a much better situation going into the game against Slovakia.
And given that the game against Slovakia, finally for me, given that the game against Slovakia is only, of course, that one-legged affair, how much pressure do you think you might be under to achieve that qualification?
Well, I think it's a tough game. I think Slovakia were very unfortunate not to qualify themselves. They played very well. The games against Wales, home and away, and Hungary, home and away, are very interesting for me. Very interesting. I don't think their Nations League games bear any relevance. They had 8 changes in the last game against Israel, so they don't bear any relevance whatsoever. I think the games against Wales and Hungary are more, are measuring points really for us to see their strengths. And we had a lot of possession in all of those games, So they're a good team. From our point of view, as a nation, we've not won an away game against a significant nation, away from home in quite a few years. So it's something that we have to do, something extraordinary now to get a result and rally around each other to get a big performance in Slovakia, try and get that victory. It will be tough. Slovakia been at home, we'll be favourites, but I think from our point of view, we believe. I think the great thing about the last window, we were able to have a look at increasing our options in midfield and in the forward areas. We've seen what worked and what didn't. We have a clear idea what we want in the game against Slovakia, and so we'll be ready.
Anyone a doubt? You see Brady's included and O'Dowda. Were they doubtful at any stage of being included?
Yeah, we can't say with any real certainty that they'll be okay, but I think Callum O'Dowda started back training on Saturday, and obviously Robbie Brady missed the game on Sunday, with a rib injury. So we'll have to wait and see how he goes. We can't assume that will be the case, but obviously that's something that we'll see how. There's some distance now between the meeting up on Sunday evening, so we'll see how that goes.
Do you have a standby list as well?
We do indeed.
Can you tell us who's on that?
No, we don't tell you that now. That's okay.
Seamus Coleman has started the season really well with Everton. Must be delighted. Does it make the decision for you even more difficult though in terms of filling that right back spot, in terms of perhaps leaving it out as well? You're starting out.
No, listen, these are good problems to have. These are the problems that we want to exist. We don't have that situation in every position, but we are pleased that several players are playing regularly in the first team. I think this is a lot different than a month ago when obviously the players were in pre-season mode, hadn't played games, and Seamus has been in fine form. There's no doubt, and that's a good sign.
Are you tempted to include both now, considering the form of Stephen, and we know Matt Doherty has been solid for so long? Are you in a position now where you just need to include both in your starting 11?
No, we're not in a position to do anything. We'll do what we feel is right for the game itself, and I think that's the key. They're both versatile players, so they're both, Matt Doherty and James Coleman are huge assets to Ireland. I think, that's what we want. We want that in all positions if we can have that.
Because the debate has already started. I'm sure you're in a delicate situation, because if you start Doherty, people will say, well, Coleman is the form player, whereas if you start Coleman, people will say, well, he's being indecisive, he's chopping and changing.
When anyone else thinks is irrelevant, that's the way I view it, and I think Seamus has been a great captain for Ireland, great player, and obviously started the season well. Matt finished the season brilliantly with Wolves, brilliantly, scored quite a number of goals, involved in goals every week, creating obviously the last games for us, he was in pre-season mode. He's coming back in a bit, and I thought his best game probably for Tottenham was last weekend. Actually, he looked really back to himself and did very well. So that bodes well.
Just finally for me, Troy Parrott, was he in contention at all to be named in this, or how was he?
Troy is injured. Obviously he's very unfortunate. He's out. He has he came back from a toe injury and injured an ankle in last week's game, so that's he's very unfortunate.
Do you have any idea how long he'll be out for? Or?
I'm not quite sure on that at the moment.
Thank you.
So yeah, that was Stephen Kenny about his Ireland squad. Another thing that he's mentioned there, is the big debate on can Seamus Coleman and Matt Doherty play on the same pitch.
Yeah, it was an awful lot of eyebrows were raised with the fact that Seamus Coleman didn't play at all in the previous two internationals, Stephen Kenny's first two games. People wondered why, given that before Kenny's appointment as Ireland manager, that he was the Irish captain, and that he played every single game, obviously, unless he was injured, and that stretches back as well to Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane's time as Irish managers. So people I think Seamus has had a fairly decent start to the season with Everton. Everton have gone their first three games. They've won their first three games in the Premier League for the first time in I think about 20 years. Seamus Coleman has played a big role in that. But then on the other side of things, Matt Doherty has also had a really, really good start, and people, it's a kind of a debate. It's nobody really will be happy about it, because if Coleman's picked, then people are saying, oh well, Matt Doherty's been on form, and if Matt Doherty's picked, then everybody's saying Coleman's been on form. So like, he can't really win on that. But he was asked if both of them could play.
Yeah, it's like asking a parent to pick their favourite child. If in my eyes, like, look, I wouldn't say it's difficult. Like, when you're at a Premier League footballer, you need to be able to adapt. So you could put them boys anywhere on that pitch, and they'd be able to adapt, in my opinion. It's just the age-old saying, yourself, if both or if not. Yeah, like, they're both on. Like, Matt Doherty got a huge move this summer to Spurs. Bows obviously got a bit of a
benefited from that.
The most expensive 45 minutes in world football. But like, yeah, so like, it's I think it's one to go down to opinions. It's not, and like, they can or they can't. I suppose it's down to the opinion of us as fans and punters, or like coach, like the Ireland staff, or even the players themselves. Like, do they, like, is there that chemistry there between the two players? Do they feel like the two of them can play together, or do they just clash? Like,
I don't know if it's probably worth. I mean, like, you can't really like, okay, the two games that Stephen Kenny could really realistically afford to risk things were his first two. Okay, players, there was an issue with fitness, there was an issue with all that kind of stuff, but we've got a big Euro playoff. There's one leg in this. There's 90 minutes of football to decide. Okay, obviously then there's another game to go before there's qualification talk, but there's, like, it's 90 minutes, the difference between us qualifying for the Euros next summer or not.
Yeah, huge 90 minutes now. Like, if it was,
so, like, risking things. I mean, it's for a new manager. Like,
now, yeah, look,
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Look, if it's like, you could call it a risk, but if he does, you want to say, like, in inverted commas, risk it, and it works out, was it even a risk in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, next up, as part of our trip to Daniel Park last week, we caught up with new Chief Operating Officer Daniel Lambert. Both have been creating a lot of headlines off the pitch this year with community initiatives and their stance on issues such as racism. We spoke to Daniel about this and more.
So Daniel, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. I suppose 130 years of Bohemians Football Club, and what a year to have that in. It's just been absolutely mental. Obviously not what the club would have hoped, because you'd have hoped to have had fans and everybody to celebrate that with, but unfortunately just not possible this year.
Yeah, no, it's like, who could have predicted, as you said at the start of the season, even in March when we began to hear word of COVID, no one expected this to happen. And yeah, it's been a strange one for us, obviously, because we're doing really well on the pitch. We're sitting in second place, no one expected us to be there, and you've that mixed with no crowd. It's a weird mix of things going on, so fans are delighted with where we are, obviously, as are we, and to be in that position and not have anyone in it, it's bittersweet, because, as I said, on the pitch it's great, and off the pitch it's a total shambles for everybody.
Because I mean, even watching it on the Watch LOI stream, it's not a great experience to obviously what you, because like you had the situation before the start of the season where record season tickets, record memberships, all of that kind of thing. And that stopped after March. I was telling you off camera that the last game that I was actually at here was that game against Shelbourne back in March.
Yeah, look, again, we coming into this season, it was really satisfying as a club. We'd come such a long way. We still have a long way to go. Obviously, like the limited capacity here means our capacity was reduced, but to have that many new members in particular, season tickets are great, and season tickets are something we should always aim to increase. But members own the club, and the more people that own the club, the stronger the club is. We are a cooperative, really. So to have members coming on 1,000 when it had always hovered around the 500 mark was fantastic, really. And to then have this just brings this level of uncertainty in now, I suppose, because going into next season, and I sort of knew this back in May, June, chatting to the other clubs, this season, because this season started in a regular way, and you had your commercial partners, and most season tickets and members left money with the club, and with all clubs around the league, great loyalty was shown to League of Ireland clubs. But going into next year, it's a whole different ask to people. You're kind of going into a season where you might not have crowds. Will people buy season tickets? It'll be a lot trickier next year. So that's just something that everyone has to cope with, and we're all trying to plan for.
And you say when members own the club, Your slogan for your 130 years is fan owned since 1890. That must be fairly spectacular to say, that the club has been fan owned for that long.
Yeah, totally. It's remarkable. Like fan owned clubs. Normally, there's not a lot of them. There's not a lot of them that are as old as we are. There's only a handful that are older. And it's a funny thing because, you've got clubs that are fan owned outside of this country, and normally they occupy lower leagues. Normally they occupy, they're down in lower divisions, and there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, you can support a football team and never win anything, and have a fantastic, time supporting that club and be invested in them. But for us, to be in the Premier Division for all 130,000 years, to have never been relegated, is special, and to have a club that's that long a members-owned club. And it really does show the strength of a collective. There was times when we were really in dire straits, and the club has only ever come through them thanks to a lot of people. It's never been one person dipping their hand in their pocket. It's been hundreds or thousands of people doing that. So, there's something that's nice about that. And it means when we're doing well on the pitch too, it's down to a lot of people. Not just one or two people. You have a club in the UK or in other leagues where someone drops in, from the Middle East or something, pumps a load of money in, and the club does well in the league. That's generally down to one guy. And that's never the case here, so that's nice too.
And you say that with investors coming in and pumping money in. Do you want to be fan owned for the foreseeable, or would that be something you'd look at down the line, potentially looking at an investor?
That'd always be for the membership. So for me, my opinion on it is the same as anyone else. It's as valid as anyone who walks by us tonight or any other person who'd normally be in the stand. I don't see that ever happening. I don't think the membership would ever vote to sell the club. We've seen enough times. We've seen it in this league, and we've seen it in other leagues, that investors come and go. They don't stick around. They're never really there for a love of the club. It's fairly rare that happens. And even if it does happen, that it's someone who is invested properly, whenever their time comes to move on, the person who normally comes next is in it for money. And I don't think this league actually has profit in it. Like, that's the thing. In the UK, a lot of the times people come in and they buy a football club. The value is always increasing because of the global TV reach. So you buy, a mid-ranking Premier League team 15 years ago for 20 million. Now they're worth 100 million, irrespective of if they win anything. Here, that's not the case. The club's really, it's hard to operate and make a profit. Really hard. So I just don't see, and I could be wrong totally on this, but I don't see the long-term future of a club being safe in investors' hands, solely in investors' hands in Ireland. That's just my opinion, though.
Is there sort of advantage to, like, I suppose one of the if there has been anything good to come out of COVID, you've had this sort of worldwide reach with the streaming service. I've got friends over in the UK telling me they're watching a League of Ireland game for the first time in donkey's years. Is that something though that could spur on the whole marketing this league to a wider international audience? I know when Niall Quinn jumped into his job in the FAI, it was something that he spoke about an awful lot, that he had great optimism that somebody could come in and invest heavily in the league. Is that one of the opportunities that might make that possible?
I think it helps. I don't think it's a solution. I wouldn't have agreed with Niall Quinn's a great guy. He's a lot of energy, very personable, and a really positive person, which are all elements that anyone attaching to the league has to have. I don't see that by putting the league and bringing it into people's homes abroad, you're going to suddenly get a large following. We've got to be realistic, and this isn't in any way. I love the league, I love this club, but we are a small country with a league that's pretty average. That's going to be the case. That's going to remain. We're a small country with a relatively small league. We're not going to become one of the top 5 or 10 leagues in Europe ever. We've got to accept that. Well, what we do have to look at is areas we can improve upon. We can have better facilities. We can have better marketing of the league. Clubs can market themselves better, and we can have a better product all round. And I think that those steps need to happen in conjunction with bringing the TV to people's homes, and we're only at step one of a lot of those. So I think that we can create a league that has international appeal, yes. But will it be this kind of global brand? I don't think that's a realistic ambition, really.
I'm glad you kind of mentioned the facilities. I mean, it is generally accepted it is going to be one of the things that will have to improve majorly. I know obviously there are big plans for Dalymount to be transformed over the next couple of years. I know obviously COVID has put a stop to an awful lot of progress that had been happening on the run up to that. Where was that? I mean, I know there was an awful lot of talk about disputes with Tesco and stuff like that about what might happen. Where are we with the new Dalymount Park?
We're in a good. I can't give it away exactly. We're expecting an announcement in the next 2 weeks. I haven't told any. You're the first person to hear that.
We'll come back to it in 2 weeks.
we had a meeting with the minister over a virtual meeting on Wednesday. It was a really good meeting. New Minister Catherine Martin, really excellent, and a local TD, Nasa Hurrigan from the Green Party, kind of facilitated that. We had a really good conversation. She understood the importance of Dalymount, and really we're very keen to emphasise that a lot of municipal stadiums, there hasn't been many in Ireland, but outside of Ireland, are used for a football team to play football in. This stadium is going to be a lot more than that. It's obviously ourselves and Shelburne at the outset, so you've got 2 football teams, but there's a huge community gain in it. There's a library, there's a lot of other elements, and we want to see it as a stadium that's in use consistently. So I think will COVID impact, the timeline? I'd say a decent shout it will, but actually not guaranteed. There will need to be capital spend by the government to restart the economy, and I think that there will be a nice announcement in the next 2 weeks to get to move it along a bit more. So.
And you said there that it'll have a massive community gain. So talk to us about Bows and community and how that can each group can work on par with the new Dalymount, and even now through COVID how Bows and the community have been working. Yeah,
like the community work is a funny thing because like I said at the start, we're a cooperative, so like what we need to be a strong club is at the moment it's 1,000, but 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 people to become a member. And when that happens, every extra member we add adds to the strength of the club. And it's sort of like the equivalent of a privately owned club getting a new investor. That's essentially what a new member means to us. And we'll only ever get new members and big numbers of new members if we're seen to be, to do good things. And like, I suppose the easiest way to describe that is, people get attached to a football club, like I said earlier, for all kinds of reasons. But winning trophies actually isn't the main reason to be a fan. Like I said, someone can follow, you can follow a team, say somebody following Cove. They're never going to win the league, in terms of the Premier Division that I could see. I don't think they'll ever probably play in Europe. They're probably unlikely things. But I'm sure Cove fans have as much love for their club as somebody has in Barcelona or Real Madrid or anywhere else. So there's nothing wrong with following a team that isn't perhaps going to win anything. But if you take away the winning element, right? And of course we want to win trophies. Like things that you can do to make people feel an affinity and a strong affinity to your club. One of the key ones is to do good things outside of football, to do good things in the local area, and that can take any form you like. We've done some things that are good. There's a whole lot more we can do. There's stuff that every club in the country can do. And I think when they do those things properly and do them well, that it just means that people have a positive perception of you outside of just the football bit.
And then when you say that, with things you've done outside of football, in the past 2 years you've done things with the rec provision centres, and this year you had the partnership with Amnesty International with the away shirt, Refugees Welcome. Does that spark that goodness in the community from a Bows point of view?
Yeah, I think so. To me, that was a really good thing to do, and like where that came from really was a fan, Kevin Brannigan, who's a Bows member. He was aware. Direct provision is something that everyone knows about now, or most people, thankfully. I didn't know about it 5-6 years ago, to be honest with you. Kevin Brannigan did. He started to raise money with fans, and it developed from there, and we developed a relationship. But like by putting that on the shirt, it got so much attention. Something like that shouldn't get that much attention. That shouldn't be a radical thing to do. It's only saying that people are welcome. And I think we had up on Twitter during the week, that banner that's in town now on Liberty Hall, 2 minutes walk from there is a famine ship for people that left Ireland to go wherever they could. So by having that message in Dublin, it should be the most natural thing in the world, really.
And I mean, at the time as well, there were critics saying that politics should be sort of left out of it, and there's no place for football or football clubs for that sort of level of politics. What's your kind of response to that?
That's just an interpretation. The kind of people who say that are the kind of people that don't agree with that message. Let's be clear, And is that a political message or is that a social and human message? To me, it's a message of kindness and a human message. I don't think anybody should have politics that says people aren't welcome. That'd be my view. And the club's view, and that was the important thing of the board, was that they didn't see that as political. So I think that and I suppose what's obvious is whenever you do something that's outside the norm, and it is outside the norm, and it shouldn't be. I don't think you'll always get some people who want to have a pop at it, and whether that's for personal reasons or for other reasons, you got to accept that. In no matter what industry you're in, no matter what field, if you do something different to what other people are doing, somebody won't like that.
Yeah.
And you got to just have the confidence to stand over, and the club's board and the club has done that. And I think, to be fair, the detractors were few and far between. We really, we get really nice messages from all sorts of places. We sell those shirts to different countries in the world every day, and a lot of nice messages come back. Photographs come back of families in Canada, Germany, people sending us in messages. And I think when you see those, the power of actually the front of a football shirt there's more in it than you might think,
Yeah, but I suppose as well, though, at the same, there has to be I suppose a line, really, doesn't there, between what's good and obviously it was a very welcome message given what's going on in the world and so on and so forth. But there has to be a line between what's overly political and not.
Yeah, but who decides where that line is, you know? And I suppose, like, I'm no longer on the board of the club. My title is operations, so you know, I act on the instruction of the board. So that's for them now. I was on the board for a long time, and I'm sure, you know, I'll bring things to them maybe, or they'll bring things to me, and it is their decision at the end of the day. But for me, the line should be a little, like, basically, I suppose what I'm saying is, like, football has a capacity to reach a lot of people. You know, and it reaches people from all different strands. It reaches people from all different countries, and there is a power in that. And again, they shouldn't be, like, nothing that anyone does should be overtly political, because that can be divisive. But I think that, you know, human rights messages, or like the marriage equality referendum we stood for, sorry, that was a referendum, so it was inherently political. But we didn't see it as being, you know, it shouldn't have been a political issue. It was about people who love each other being able to marry. Like, how does that end up getting drawn into politics? So,
and I suppose what you touched on in terms of your new role, and I forgot to congratulate you at the start of the interview. You've completely changed into, as you said there, into an operations role. So what does, and that, so obviously that means you're coming off the board. So what does that sort of entail on a day to day here?
Well, the main aim with this role is it's around sort of strategic projects. So there's the day-to-day things that have to be done, and they'll have to be done at every club. But there's certain priorities that we have. We mentioned Dalymount already. Like, Dalymount redevelopment is essential to our growth. It's hampered our growth, COVID aside, and it was beginning to limit, you know, our income streams and where we could kind of advance it. You know, we're looking at a training base. I think it's been mentioned before in the media. You know, we are looking at building. Obviously, all clubs are trying to develop academies now with the new underage structures, and there's various other things that we want to try and do to position ourselves. We feel that we've, in the last 10 years, we really have tried to rebuild the club, and we've come to a situation now where there's a lot more potential in it. And, you know, we have an entirely voluntary board. Almost everyone involved with the club is a volunteer. We just feel that to bring it to the next level, you need to be able to dedicate more time to it. And hopefully, you know, I've a lot more time to dedicate, obviously, and hopefully we can make some advancements in some of those areas. And yeah, the operations side is just, you know, other clubs will have a CEO and executive, but the executive employs decision-making ability. The members-owned club, the board are the people who've been trusted with decisions. My role should be just to implement those decisions.
And you talked there about income coming into the club and the development of a training base, and with the academy, like, you have your academy partnership with St. Kevin's. That's obviously a fantastic partnership for both St. Kevin's and for Bows. But another thing that when we talk about income and developing the academy, a former youth player or a young player helped with that income in Matt Doherty. How was that reaction taken?
Yeah, like,
it
was really lucky, to be fair. But Matt played. It was in the papers again. Matt played 45 minutes, and it was a really unusual thing that happened in that he left here and went to Wolves, and Wolves developed as a club as he developed as a player, and they stayed with each other. So it was a really unusual set of circumstances to be with a club for 10 years and never move, and that club rise up and suddenly be in European places. You know, there was a really lucky set of circumstances. You know, and the income from that, of course, is really welcome. But wouldn't get too carried away. Like, you know, like Dundalk lost €1.2 million last year in this league. They won the league and they did well in Europe. So, you know, when we talk about the broader league picture, you know, what an amount of money can do, you know, in terms of football, in terms very little actually, that amount of money. But for us, it helps further some of the projects that we spoke about. It'll definitely, you know, move us on a couple of years. But I don't think it's going to transform, you know, what we're about, or somehow, you know, we'll become a different club because of it. I think we should just be grateful that we got that look, to be fair.
Yeah, most expensive 45 minutes in world football, I'd probably say. But anyway, so talk to us about the partnership with St. Kevin's and the academy development with some of the players that they could be playing here tonight. Did they come through the Kevin's academy?
A lot of young players have come through from Kevin's, and Kevin's have been, you know, usually it's been really beneficial with the relationship with some of the Kevin's coaches, and obviously so many young players have come through St. Kevin's, went to the UK, and, you know, obviously we have a model where we take a lot of young players coming back. So yeah, it's been a great partnership. Look, Kevin's have a great history. They're local to us here. I think Kevin's, I think they were founded in the 1950s. I can see it somewhere from my head, but they're a club with a big history themselves. And I think when you bring together two clubs, you know, with big histories and very proud histories, that you know, that's a great thing when that happens. And it just takes time then to develop relationships, get to know people, and people up there are great. You know, they've worked really hard to promote the partnership. So have we, and it's still early days in that partnership. Hopefully we can keep building on it.
And it's working because the level of players that are sort of coming through that, you're seeing them here, you're seeing them, as you mentioned, in the underage setups, and it's really developing into the success that we're kind of seeing on the pitch now. Okay, the result in Europe obviously wasn't ideal very recently, but getting to that point was the bigger milestone last season, having not got there in years and years and years. This has been a gradual building project, because I've been coming here for the last 10 years hoping that, you know, something will spark over the years, and and it has now with the work that Keith has done and that Trevor has done and the players that they've managed to develop here.
Yeah, totally. Look, Keith's an absolutely brilliant guy, as is Trevor, all the backroom staff, and what they've been able to do really is to bring in young players, often young players who maybe have come back from the UK, or someone like Danny Grant, who I think was with Leinster Senior League side, but they've been able to get young guys in and believe in them and give them space to develop. And they've just been excellent people to have at the club. Like Keith's, I think this is Keith's 6th season, and he really just has been a huge asset. And it's that belief really in young players, and as a club that we're able to bring people in, give them a platform, and allow them to develop. And we saw it in Hungary, like came really close against Ferrovar. They're an excellent team, and I think coming up to it was said we the 6th youngest squad in Europe, in the whole of Europe. That's amazing stuff really, and hopefully that can continue. That we bring young guys through. They're motivated, they're hungry, and they learn under Keith and Trevor, and we give them a nice platform as a club to perform, and we give them the facilities and the support they need.
Okay, well, excellent. Listen, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us.
Sound.
And that was Bohemians Chief Operating Officer Daniel Lambert speaking to us at Dalymount Park last week, and our big thanks to Daniel for his time that he took out of pre-match organisation in order to speak to us there. And I mean, look, I suppose there's going to be an awful lot of critics, and there's critics in everything that you see in sport these days, and I suppose when you start bringing politics into the swing of things, I mean, look, Daniel himself saying that some of the issues that they're sort of advocating for are mostly human rights issues, that they're not too overly political, that it's human rights. And look, as we alluded to earlier when discussing who should play, Seamus Coleman or Matt Doherty, you alluded to, Conor, the fact that it's all a matter of opinion. And look, everybody has opinion, everybody's entitled to one. But look, there you go. So yeah, our big thanks to Daniel Lambert there for speaking to us last week.
And that's all we have time for on this week's show. Thanks very much for listening. Don't forget you can listen back to the podcast via Spotify, Acast and YouTube. Contact us via Twitter at FTFPodIRE or email ftfpod@gmail.com. But for now, I'm Conor Hossford.
And I'm Daniel Pitcher.
Thanks for listening.